So, about a month ago, I was scrolling through Facebook, really bored at work, and this came up on my screen. Now, this is work done by a brilliant young artist called Faisal Jahan, and it's 9 letters across Muslim. Who here can figure this little puzzle out? Exactly. So when I realized that that word said terrorist, obviously I was disturbed. Now, what disturbed me more so is that I got it as a Muslim. I'm not some Westerner who has a skewed perception of the Muslims and the Arabs in general, but I, as a Muslim and an Arab, saw that and I understood it. Now, basically, sorry, we're having issues here. So, our cities and towns grew very, very quickly. We all know this. In the past 20 years, we went from sleepy, quiet desert towns that nobody knew of, and we suddenly became these bustling metropolises. And as a result, there was a tear in the social fabric. So, whereas we used to be close-knit, family-oriented communities, we became quite globalized citizens. As the oil boom grew, we started building walls, rather than living in a small neighborhood where everybody knew everybody. And let's say if you had a young daughter walking out at night, nobody cared because the neighbors would see her, and if she was up to no good, they're going to tell you. But as we started building bigger houses, higher walls, essentially fracturing that social fabric, there's an element of distrust that started growing. And as a result, we started digging our heels deeper. We started trying to uniform our culture more so. Now, if you look at small tribes in the Amazon or in Africa, a small tribe has a very uniform culture. They all look the same, dress the same, speak the same language. But as your society grows larger and becomes more industrialized and more globalized, you have to start creating subcultures in order to evolve that culture and take it from one decade to the next. But what the Arab world was doing is trying to retain its uniformity while growing larger and ever more complex. Now, the result is we have all these men wearing white and all these women wearing black, and all the men are called Muhammad and all the women are called Sarah, and they all live in the same beige house, driving the same Lexus, going to London and hanging out on Edgware Road. Sound like anyone you know? So, it's no surprise that by 2010, 2011, the Arab world exploded. And while a lot of theories are going to bounce around about politics and sectarianism and all of that, I think the Arab Spring was really a cry to be recognized. You have a young generation that has grown up with the internet, and they're well-traveled, well-educated. We like to call them the chicken nuggets sometimes. For those of you who don't understand the term, chicken nugget means white on the inside, brown on the outside. So basically this explosion happened, and it really proved to the world how just by connecting on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, you can ultimately lead massive revolutions and eventually topple some dictators. Now, the thing about globalization and industrialization is that these subcultures that get created are an essential part of cultural evolution. So whether you're going to be the hippie, the rapper, the skater, the techie, etc., seeking these like-minded individuals and eventually establishing your own subculture is what's going to eventually modernize and evolve your culture. So rather than whitewashing Arabic culture, which I call Mick Arabia, we need to start evolving. So how do we do it? There are 4 steps. Number 1, connection. So you have the internet, you have no excuse. If you want to connect with like-minded individuals anywhere in the world, based on what you are interested or what your lifestyle is, you have that chance. So start by connecting. Start by seeking these people who think the way you do, who like the things you like, and eventually what happens is you create a new community. And as you create this new community, you're going to start creating your own body of work. And by bringing all these different schools of thoughts, cultures, ideologies, etc. into this, you end up creating your own subculture. Then communication. Now, there's a lot of people in this region who are very talented. They're amazing artists, writers, photographers, musicians, but they're a bit shy to put their work out there. You know, they always feel they're a bit less than, you know, or not as good as, and, you know, they try to keep things within their small, close circle, but it's very, very important to broadcast yourself. You know, in this day and age, you know, if you create great work, you have to put it out there so that people recognize you and know you and stop thinking you're a terrorist and actually see you for who you really are, an artist, a photographer, a writer, a teacher, whatever it is, but you take control of your own image. And finally, and I think is the most important step for cultural evolution, any minute now, courage. Get over your fear. You know, everybody has this fear of standing out because when we live in a culture of uniformity, the only way we kind of, like right now, if you look at the Arabs, the best way for them to stand out is by having the nice new Birkin bag or the cool car number or the nice phone number. And these are very small things that we use to stand out. But it is human nature to stand out. You know, we're born with individual brains. My brain is not like yours, it's not like yours. And if I am too scared to be myself and to show myself to the world, then who am I? You know, I'm a nobody in this day and age if I'm not broadcasting myself and if I don't have the courage to do that. So, just to recap, if you want to create your own subculture, first of all, connect with those who share your beliefs and principles. Then create this body of work, and thus creating your community. Communicate what you're doing, online and offline. And finally, have the courage to do it. Have the confidence and the, you know, gusto to go out there and say, this is who I am, unashamedly, unequivocally. So 2015 was voted the year of identity by dictionary.com and also the New York Times. Why is that? Because back in the day, the concept of identity used to be who your family was, your skin color, the country you were born in, your religion. But nowadays, the concepts of identity is very muddled. You know, it really comes down to what role you play in society. Identity comes down to standing out from the herd, not conforming. And the reason why that's important is because it actualizes yourself. It makes you real. It goes back to the old allegory of the tree in the forest, you know. So, how do you create your identity? First of all, define your sense of purpose. Now, I work in branding and I work with a lot of companies, and generally what I do is I establish an identity for that company. Why? Because they're a bit aimless. You have different departments working on different levels and saying different things, and there's no, you know, they're not all on the same page. So when we sit down with these companies, department by department, from the CEO to the janitor, and we define who is this company. And I've done the same thing with countries, and I've done the same thing with celebrities. Ultimately, branding is about defining your identity. And that comes down to one thing, which is your purpose. Why do you exist? What are you here to do? You know, what's the point of your life? Once you figure that out, you put together some principles. You know, what principles make me different from you? What are your values? Do you value friendship? Do you value giving? Do you value, you know, passion? What is it that you value? And once you define those principles, usually it's good to stick to 3 or 4, it starts to come together. So I know my purpose and I know my principles, but then what? Oops, sorry. Personality. Now, Carl Jung famously outlined 12 archetypes for personality, and you can Google this on your own time. Generally, we have a role that we play, in society. Am I the guardian? Am I, the adventurer? Am I the hero? Am I the savior? What role do I play? Who am I to my friends, to my family? And finally, your position. So, your position in society, your position in the market, your position within your country. What position do you occupy? Why would people come to you? What are you the go-to person for? Recap. So, if you define your purpose and say, this is why I exist as a person, and you understand what your principles are, what you stand for, what you believe is right and wrong, and finally outline your personality and understand the role you're going to play in society, and finally where your position is going to be, then you start having a much clearer understanding of who you are. In a nutshell, if you want to evolve your culture, and if you want to progress and create your own subculture, you have to go back to what Socrates said about 5,000 years ago, and it's simply know thyself. Thank you.